I wanted to come on and do my chapter readings with you. Today we are going to be reading chapters 11 and 12 of Book 1, The Songs of the First Dawn. This is from the Chronicles of Elyndor, Song of the Dragon. And the book promotion that I told you guys about last week, that starts at midnight tonight. And so in the live chat area, I'm putting the link to my author page over on Amazon, and then you'll be able to see all of the books that I have available. Okay. Now, just really quickly, books 1, 3, and 4, I will have free ebook for you guys for 2 days, so tomorrow and Friday. And then book 2, I only had 1 day left, so that will be free all day tomorrow only. And then I've also made free for 2 days my small book, Return to Zion's Haven. That's kind of like my personal testimony based on the Mandela effect and the song The Good Shepherd that came out of that. That's going to be free for 2 days. And then also my children's book, Ducks, Dragons, and Wonders of the Deep, is going to be free for 2 days starting tomorrow as well. So I hope you guys will take advantage of the monthly free book promotion. That's just a way that I can give to the body of Christ. And a big thank you to those of you who have taken advantage of the promotion every month. I've had quite a few downloads of that. I've had some actual sales of my books. So if you're the ones that have actually purchased the ebook, a big thank you to you if you watch my channel here. So okay, let me do this. Okay, so I have been for the last since the 1st of January, when book 1 was released, I have been doing chapter readings every week, or about every week, and that is a way for you guys to get a feel of what this saga is about. And this is a story that I originally wrote when I was about 22 years old. It was written for my then only child, my oldest son. And since then, I have come back to that original manuscript, probably about September of last year. And I thought, okay, well, it's been, 34 years later, and I want to publish my work. And so that's what I have been working on. And so in book 1, this is the world map that you will see as you read through the book. And Elyndor is my in-world Garden of Eden, basically is what it equates to. And so in Elyndor, you have the Garden of Everlight. And so you have Rocky Mire, which is the realm of the trolls. You have Mountain Vale, which is the realm of the dragon. Of course, you can see the tree of Everlight is there in the middle. And then you have Glimmerwood, which is the realm of the satyrs. And then you have Hollow Peak, which is the realm of the unicorns. Okay. And then for book 2, which is this one right here, this continues the saga, and it's called The Song Unbroken. And then here is the world map that you will see going into book 2. And of course, predominantly Elyndor is still the main focus, but now you're going to start getting a glimpse into the Shadowlands. Okay, and then here is book 3, The Song Remains. And then here is the world map. And of course, you can see that it's starting to expand. You've got different land masses, and different characters are introduced in book 3. And of course, you can still see Elyndor, but you're getting a wider view of where this saga goes, basically. And then my newest release that just came out, well, basically like a couple of days ago. I just couldn't start the promotion until tomorrow. This is book 4. And I will warn you guys, this is a darker book. This one was really, really hard for me to get through. The Song of the Remnant. And then here is the world map that you will find in book 4. So there's book 4, The Song of the Remnant. Here is book 3, The Song Remains. Book 2, The Song Unbroken. And then, of course, here is book 1 that we are reading in now. And of course, again, for anybody that's just coming in, the free book promotion starts basically like at midnight tonight, Eastern Standard Time. Books 1, 3, and 4, you'll have 2 days to go download the ebook absolutely free. And then book 2, I only had 1 day left on the promotion, so that will be tomorrow only. And then, of course, Ducks, Dragons, and Wonders of the Deep, my children's book, that will be available for 2 days. And then Return to Zion's Haven will be available for 2 days as well, all starting tomorrow. Okay, so we are ready to start chapter 11. So let me go over there now. Okay, and just to let you guys know, chapters 10 or 11 and 12, these are longer chapters, about 20 pages. So just try to hang in there with me as I start reading through. Okay, from 1 John 4:1. Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits whether they are of God. And then that's the opening image there for chapter 11. The Asherized Test. When trust is built on borrowed light, even the truest hearts may follow a shadow. From the Songs of the First Dawn. The morning after Daniel's talk with Shareah rose clear and cool over Mountain Vale. Mist drifted low between the cliffs, catching hints of gold as the sun climbed higher, while the valley floor stirred with the sleepy rustle of wings and the low murmur of dragons greeting the day. Training had resumed. Daniel watched from a high ledge as younglings darted through the air in uneven lines, their eager wings beating against carefully shaped currents of warmed air. Older dragons flanked them, calling corrections, adjusting updrafts with gentle streams of fire. Beside him, Quinn stood alert and silent. Cameron was stationed a short distance away, his deep blue scales catching stray shafts of light. And just beyond them, close enough to observe, far enough not to presume, stood Raymond. The black dragon held himself with a quiet composure that felt almost rehearsed. Wings folded neatly, head bowed just enough to signal respect. Not a hint of arrogance in his posture. Yet Daniel could not forget the elder's warning. Honor and a curse. Raymond had claimed the honorable title, the noble one, the Asherai who had walked beside humans in their darkest days, and the stones had whispered that his lineage was real. But lineage alone was not enough. Daniel needed to see what kind of dragon this Asherai heir truly was. A youngling shrieked with joy as he tilted into a too-sharp dive, swooping past another and nearly clipping his wing. The instructor barked a warning, adjusting a thermal to cushion the reckless arc. Sharia glided between formations with practiced ease, her presence a steadying current among their chaos. She had always favored the young, correcting firmly, encouraging gently, celebrating their smallest victories with a pride that lit her silver scales. Daniel watched her land near a particularly timid dragonling whose wings shook each time he tried to lift from the ground. "Slow your breath," she murmured, lowering her head to his level. "The song isn't rushing. Neither should you." The little one nodded, inhaled shakily, and tried again. A faint smile touched Daniel's jawline. Quinn shifted beside him. "You're thinking," he said quietly. "I usually am," Daniel answered. "Now more than usual," Quinn replied. "You keep glancing at him." Daniel's eyes flicked briefly toward Raymond. "Do you blame me?" "No," Quinn said, "but I still don't trust him." Cameron snorted softly. "Trust isn't the same as usefulness," he muttered. "He knows things about the Shadowlands we don't." "We won't decide anything today," Daniel said. "Not until we've seen more than words and stories." As if summoned by the thought, Raymond stepped forward. "My king," he said softly, keeping his head bowed. "If it pleases you, I would be honored to observe the younglings more closely. Their movements reveal much about how your guard is trained." Cameron's eyes narrowed. Quinn's tail flicked once. Daniel only inclined his head. "Observe then," he said, "but do not interfere." Raymond bowed. "As you wish." He moved down the ledge closer to the training grounds, but not among them, keeping a respectful distance as he watched. His gaze tracked the younglings' patterns, their mistakes, their strengths, the blind spots in their formation. His eyes lingered a heartbeat longer on Sharia, and farther off at the edge of the valley on a dragon who stood alone, Wintella. She watched the training from a distance, wings folded tightly against her sides, her posture composed but strained. The heaviness of the night Daniel had spoken truth to her still clung to her shoulders, dimming the usual gleam of her aqua green scales. Raymond filed away the sight of her sorrow like a shard of glass he might use later. Not yet, he told himself. There is timing to these things. The ledge collapse happened in an instant. One of the older dragons had just signaled for a change in formation, calling the younglings into a sweeping arc along the cliff wall. Daniel's attention shifted briefly toward a distant ridge, noting the way the winds were shifting there. He didn't see the loose stone. The smallest youngling, the one Sharia had been encouraging, skidded when his back foot landed on a crumbling patch of gravel. His wings flared too late. The stone beneath him gave way with a sharp crack. He tumbled over the edge. Sharia shouted, wings snapping open. Daniel lunged forward, every muscle coiled to dive, but Raymond was already moving. He launched from the lower ledge with a force that sent dust spiraling into the air. His wings folded tight to his body as he dropped, black scales slicing through the space between stone and open sky. The youngling spun in a panicked spiral, claws scrabbling at nothing, a scream torn from his throat. Raymond hit the falling path at just the right angle. He hooked the youngling with one foreleg, pulling the small body tight against his chest, twisting midair as the momentum dragged them both downward. Instead of opening his wings fully and risking a collision with the jagged wall, He angled them just enough to slam himself into a sloping outcrop below. Stones shattered under the impact. Dust exploded around them. Daniel's heart hammered against his ribs as he dove after them, wings beating hard. Sharia was right beside him, her breath sharp and ragged. They landed on the lower ledge in the settling dust. Raymond was there, on one knee, wings half open, chest heaving. The youngling trembled against him, eyes squeezed shut, claws digging into the black dragon's foreleg. Raymond's right shoulder bore the brunt of the fall. Scales there were cracked and torn, a dark fissure running along the muscle. A thin trickle of smoke edged from the wound, tinging with something greenish before fading. He tightened his grip around the youngling protectively. "It's all right," he murmured, voice low. "I have you." Sharia rushed to the youngling first, pressing her snout gently to his head. "Breathe," she whispered. "You're safe. You're safe." Wide eyes blinked open. I fell," he stammered. I thought, I know," she said softly. "But he did not let you." She looked up at Raymond then, truly looked at him, and Daniel saw something shift in her gaze. Respect. Daniel exhaled slowly, the rush of battle instinct easing from his veins. "You moved before the stone gave way," he said quietly. Raymond bowed his head, breath still unsteady. "The gravel shifted," he answered. "I heard it. The rhythm of the rock changed. It is something my line has always known. Where the ground will hold, where it will not." Quinn landed hard on the ledge behind them, eyes wide. "That dive should have broken your neck," he said bluntly, "or sent you over the edge with him." Raymond huffed a faint sound that might have been a laugh. The Asherai did not keep younglings safe by standing on solid ground. He shifted, wincing, as he gently nudged the youngling towards Sharia. "No young one under my watch," he murmured, "will fall while I breathe." The little dragon pressed closer to Sharia, but his gaze remained fixed on Raymond, with the kind of devotion that forms in a single life-altering moment. Daniel heard a soft intake of breath above them. He glanced up. Wintella stood on the higher ledge where the training had begun. Her posture had changed, no longer merely watching. She stared down at the scene with something raw and uncovered in her eyes. She had seen the fall. She had seen the rescue. She had heard the words. A dragon who would leap for the smallest life. Her heart, still bruised from Daniel's quiet refusal, twisted toward the sight before her like a wounded thing seeking warmth. The stone reader's chambers were older than the garden itself, carved deep into the heart of Mountain Vale, where the rock remembered every word that had ever been spoken from its halls. Light here was softer, tinted with the glow of embedded fire crystals and the faint, living shimmer of sigils etched into the walls. The air hummed with a low resonance, like the distant echo of the song caught in stone. Daniel had not expected to return so soon. Yet here he was again, Sharia at his side, Quinn and Cameron flanking the entrance, and Raymond standing just inside the threshold, head bowed. Elder Saradon watched them with eyes that had seen more seasons than any dragon alive. Mirath and Kalor stood beside him, their scales dulled by age, but their presence undimmed. "You bring him to us," Saradon said, voice like worn granite, "the Asherai heir." "I bring his claim," Daniel answered, "and what we witnessed this morning." Mirath's gaze flicked to Raymond's injured shoulder. "So the stories of his line are not entirely dust," she muttered. Kalor's wings shifted faintly. "The Asherai were first known for whom they guarded," he said, "not for what they feared." Sharia lowered her head slightly. He moved before the stone fell, she said softly. The youngling would be dead now if he had not. Saradon studied Raymond in silence. Step forward, the elder said at last. If your blood is what you say, the stones will answer. Raymond moved into the center of the chamber. He suppressed the flicker of irritation at the weight of their stares. He had lived long enough to see the first Asherai rise and fall. He had watched their fire burn bright and then collapse inward under the pressure of their own minds. He knew their stories better than any living dragon. And with the help of ancient, darkened magic, he knew how to imitate them. Saradon lifted one claw and pressed it to a sigil, stone embedded into the floor. A circular slab carved with interlocking rings, lines spiraling outward like ripples in water. Faint light stirred beneath its surface. This stone was carved in the first days of their charge, the elder said. It remembers their fire, their vow, their fall. He withdrew his claw. Place your paw there, Mirath instructed, and breathe when I say. Raymond stepped onto the circle. The stone felt cold at first, then unnaturally warm, as his own power reached down to meet the ancient lines carved into it. Beneath his scales, hidden where their eyes could not see, old magic stirred. The same twisted power that had shaped his dragon form now turned inward to mimic a pattern he had once witnessed in another's breath. The Asherai once stood here, Kalor said quietly. They vowed to guard those sent from the garden. They vowed to walk the shadow so others would not have to. Saradon's eyes narrowed. Breathe, he said. Raymond drew in a long, controlled breath. He remembered the cadence he had watched long ago, the measured exhale of a dragon who had pledged his life to the fragile, fearful humans stumbling through their first year of exile. He remembered the way the Asherai's flame had bent toward the song, not in pride, but in obedience. He exhaled. Flame spilled from his jaws, controlled, low, shaped not to scorch, but to warm. It washed over the sigil stone in a steady stream. For a breath, nothing happened. Then the rings carved into the stone flared to life. Light flooded each line, circling outward in a pattern that matched Raymond's exhale. The chamber brightened with a soft golden glow that wrapped around his legs, climbing his chest, brushing the underside of his jaw. Shariah's breath caught. Daniel felt the scales along his spine lift as the light brushed his own claws, answering something within the song that resonated with this ancient vow. The sigil stone pulsed once, twice, like a slow heartbeat. Then the glow faded. A hairline crack spidered across one of the inner rings. Raymond's gaze flicked down just for an instant. The stone had borne witness to too much, too many oaths broken, too many truths twisted. It was not made to recognize a lie wearing the skin of truth. But the flare had been real enough. Mirath whispered. It answered. Kalor bowed his head. Only those of that line ever stirred that pattern. Saradon's eyes slid from the stone to Raymond's face. He studied him for a long time, silver gaze searching for something only he could name. At last he spoke. The blood in your veins is Asherai, he said, fire true to their line. He turned his head toward Daniel. What kind of Asherai he becomes, Saradon added quietly, will not be for the stones to decide. Daniel bowed his head, accepting the weight of that truth. Shariah's shoulders eased just slightly. The elder's confirmation did not erase her unease, but it wrapped it in something solid enough to lean on. Quinn's jaw clenched, then loosened. If the stones speak for him, he murmured, I cannot speak against him. Cameron huffed. I can still watch. Raymond stepped back from the sigil stone, inclining his head deeply. I am grateful, he said, voice low and carefully roughened with emotion. My lying thought forgotten, my ancestors believed their sacrifice would fade from memory. To be named, to be seen, he bowed deeper. You honor them. The elder said nothing more. Word of the day's events spread faster than wind. By the time the sun dipped toward the western peaks, dragons gathered in small clusters across the valley, speaking in low voices of the younglings' fall, the black dragons dive, the sigil stones glow. Wintella walked along the ridge path overlooking Daniel's newly revealed dwelling. The stronghold glowed with faint inner light, its smooth archways and carved halls pulsing softly like a living heart within the mountain. Her own heart ached less sharply than it had the night before. Pain still lingered. Daniel's gentle words, the respectful refusal, the quiet finality of knowing his heart belonged elsewhere. But the rawness had dulled, smoothed by the steady rhythm of the day and the unexpected sight of a dragon who had risked everything for one so small. She paused near a curve in the path where the stone dipped into a shallow hollow, sheltering a small cluster of silver-veined plants she had long ago tended into quiet order. Claws moved ahead of her. She looked up. Raymond stood there, a short distance away, one wing held a little tighter against the side where the healer's salve still glistened along his injured shoulder. Wintella, he said softly. She lifted her chin, wary. You remember my name. His mouth curved just a little. We stood together at the gathering when Yeshariel appeared, he replied. You spoke it then, and again when the fallen tree blocked your lair. Her gaze flicked past him as if she could still see the memory. The great trunk wedged across her entrance, his black form bracing and pushing until stone and bark finally gave way. I have not forgotten, she said quietly. I saw you today, he went on, watching the training and the younglings fall. You stood alone while the valley crowded around the story. He bowed his head slightly. I thought it unkind to pass you by as though you were not there. Her eyes narrowed, a defense rising. Most do. He stopped a respectful distance from her, wings folded, posture low. Then most are fools, he said simply. She blinked, thrown off balance. You know nothing of them. I know what I see, he answered. A dragon whose fire could scorch a mountainside, yet who stands apart as if she were the smallest ember in the valley. Her breath caught. You saw me then, she said quietly. I see you now, he replied. Silence stretched between them, filled with the distant echo of younglings screeching and the softer murmur of the wind along the cliffs. You risked your life today, she murmured at last, for a hatchling you barely knew. His expression softened just enough. My ancestors walked with human children who could not fly, who stumbled and fell with every step, he said. We learned early that the smallest life often carries the greatest weight. He looked toward the valley. I could not do any less here. Wintella's heart leaned towards those words like something long chilled turned towards warmth. You are different, she said. We all are, he answered. The difference is whether anyone bothers to see it. He turned then, as if to leave her to her thoughts, his respect for her space as deliberate as every other motion he made. Raymond, she said suddenly. A pause. Yes? She looked down at the stone between them, then back to him. Thank you, she whispered. He dipped his head. The honor was mine. Later that evening, as the sky deepened into dusty violet and the first stars began to prick the edges of the horizon, Daniel stood outside his dwelling with Quinn and Cameron at his side. Sharia joined them, her wings catching the last light of the day. Raymond approached slowly, keeping his wings folded as his head lowered. The stone readers have spoken, Daniel said, breaking the silence. They confirmed your lineage. Your actions today spoke for your character. Raymond bowed. I did only what any dragon should do. Not every dragon does, Quinn said flatly. That's what makes it matter. Cameron's eyes narrowed, but he gave a short nod. You're reckless, he said, but not stupid. That is useful. Daniel's gaze was steady. I am not yet ready to name you fully to the guard, he said, but I would be a fool to ignore what you know and what you have shown. Raymond waited perfectly still. So, Daniel continued, I offer you this. Stand with us in training and counsel. Walk with my guard. Learn our ways as we learn yours. For a time, your place will be on trial. Quinn's tail flicked once in agreement. If your loyalty proves true, Daniel said, we will revisit this. If it does not, then I will leave, Raymond finished, or fall under your judgment as any traitor should. Daniel inclined his head, agreed. Sharia stepped forward, eyes still cautious but not closed. The Asherai once walked between realms, she said. If you are truly of that line, you know what it means to stand with the king. Her voice softened. Do not take this lightly. Raymond bowed deeply. I do not, he said. You honor my ancestors more than they were honored in their final days. Then he lifted his gaze just enough to meet Daniel's eyes. And I will not forget it. Daniel held that gaze for a moment longer, then comfort aloud. Something in his chest tightened, a whisper of unease, a shadow of the elder's warning, honor and a curse. Shariah's wings brushed his lightly, grounding him. Trust the unease, she had told him, but do not let it rule you. He nodded once more to himself than to anyone else. Welcome to Mountain Vale, Raymond, he said at last. Walk in truth. Raymond bowed low, concealing the brief glint of satisfaction that passed through his eyes. In truth, he echoed. High above on a quiet ledge near her lair, Wintella watched the exchange. Her heart, once fixed on a king who could not return her gaze, shifted toward a new center. A dragon of ancient blood, a dragon the elders themselves had named, a dragon who had seen her. In the gathering dusk, Wintella whispered a vow to herself, half hope, half trembling belief. Perhaps, she murmured, I was always meant to stand at the side of an Asherai. Far below, the song hummed quietly beneath the stone, unresolved. Purpose clung to Raymond like shadow clings to stone, shaped long before he ever reached the valley. Daniel and Shariah would uncover it in time, but Wintella, she was already walking straight toward the snare he had woven. Okay, so there is the ending image for chapter 11. I'm going to get a drink really quick, and then I'll get started into chapter 12. All righty. Okay. Okay, so the opening image for chapter 12. Okay. Job 1:12. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth thine hand. Chapter 12, the whisper and the wager. When light is tested, shadows whisper boldest, not to conquer it, but to prove what cannot be broken. From the songs of the first dawn. Time passed in Mountain Vale, measured not by days alone, but by the slow, careful weaving of trust and habit. Raymond walked among the dragons now, not as a king, not as a hero, not yet as a full member of the guard, but he walked there. He flew beside Quinn on long patrols along the valley's rim, speaking little and listening much. He stood at Daniel's right hand during morning briefings, offering observations about shifting winds in the Shadowlands, about the restless silence along the far ridges, about the places where darkness seemed to gather and loosen like a slow breath. He trained beside Cameron in the air, matching his maneuvers with respectful precision, never pushing ahead of him, never challenging his position, always just a fraction behind. He deferred when challenged, bowed when corrected, accepted caution without resentment. At least that was what they saw. Weeks folded into one another like the layered stone of the mountain itself. The dragons grew used to the sight of the black-scaled stranger among them, to his reserved smile, to his quiet questions, the way he always seemed to be exactly where a gap in the formation needed filling. And slowly the wariness around him began to soften. Not completely, not in everyone. Sharea's eyes still followed him with a quiet, wary attention. Quinn never let him out of his sight during training. Cameron's tail flicked more often when Raymond drew near. But Daniel began to see something he could not easily dismiss. He saw the way Raymond paced the outer ring at night while others slept, as if standing watch by instinct. He saw him intervene when a young dragon's temper flared too hot, guiding the flame harmlessly away instead of letting it scorch a weaker wing. He saw the steady words Raymond offered to a nervous fledgling before her first solo flight. He saw a dragon who moved like a guardian. Sorry, just one moment. Do you got that? And though the elder's warning still echoed in him, honor and a curse, he could not deny the honor he saw. It was not trust, not fully, but it was something close enough that his heart, already burdened with the weight of kingship, wanted to lean into. Wintella watched all of this from the edges. She saw Raymond fly beside Daniel in formation. She saw the nods exchanged between them after a maneuver done well. She saw the way dragons who had once kept their distance now greeted him with brief inclines of their heads. She saw Sharea too, moving through the valley with her familiar quiet strength, her silver body gliding in and out of the younglings' flights. Her praise carried on the wind when one of them finally mastered a difficult turn. Wintella's chest tightened every time. Once, such moments would have made her ache with longing alone. Now they made her ache with something darker, an ember of resentment she did not yet know how to name. Raymond found her often in those days. He never came all at once, never with a grand gesture. He joined her when she walked along the ridge paths at dusk, saying nothing until she chose to speak. He landed nearby after training flights, remaining silent until her breath steadied and her gaze drifted toward him. He did not flatter her openly. Instead, he noticed. You drag your tail when you are troubled, he observed once, as they walked beneath the shade of the high trees. Yet your wings never droop. You carry your dignity even when your heart is heavy. She stiffened, caught between bristling and preening. You watch too closely. It is difficult not to, he had replied, a faint twinkle in his eyes. Your fire draws the eye, even when you try to hide it. Another time he spoke as they watched Daniel from a distant outcrop, the king's conferring with his guard now. There is strength in him, Raymond had said quietly, but also strain. I wonder who he trusts when everyone expects him to be unshakable. The words had slipped under her scales like a hook. She had already been thinking the same thing. If he had trusted you, he would have chosen you. The thought had come unbidden. Raymond simply gave it room to breathe. It was late in the season when her guard finally cracked. The evening was cool beneath the trees on the lower slope. The light softened to amber as the sun sank behind the peaks. Leaves whispered overhead, and the air carried the faint scent of damp earth and distant ash. Wintella walked there alone, or so she thought. Her claws traced reckless arcs in the soil. carving and erasing the same pattern without realizing. Raymond stepped from between the head of her, his approach as unthreatening as a shadow shifting with the light. Winella, he said, inclining his head. She halted, lifting her chin. You find me odd, she said coolly. Does the King's Guard not have other paths to control or to patrol? The King's Guard watches what matters, he replied. Sometimes that means cliffs and borders, his gaze softened. Sometimes that means dragons who walk alone. She snorted lightly. I am not helpless. I know, he said. That is not why I am here. She hesitated, then resumed walking. He fell into step beside her, leaving a respectful span of space between them. Silence lingered for a while, broken only by the rustle of leaves and the distant murmur of other dragons settling for the night. At last he spoke. You drag your tail again, he murmured. She stiffened. Perhaps I like the feel of the earth, she said sharply. And perhaps, he said gently, you are weary of pretending you do not hurt. The word struck too close. She stopped walking. The forest seemed to lean closer, listening. I do not break, she said. I do not whimper. If I fall, I rise. That is all. He slowed as well, turning to face her fully. I believe you, he said, but strength and silence are not the same thing. Her jaw tightened. You think you know me because you have shared a few walks and words. I think, he replied, that I see a dragon who has been overlooked for far too long, and who has learned to call that neglect normal so it hurts less. Her breath hitched before she could stop it. Images flickered in her mind. Daniel's smile turned towards Sharia. Sharia's quiet grace among the younglings, the way dragons look to the rainbow-winged dragoness for counsel, for calm, for warmth. And then herself, always just beyond those circles, always almost included, almost chosen, almost enough. She looked away, blinking hard. Tell me I am wrong, Raymond said softly. She tried. The words would not come. I once thought Daniel saw me, she whispered instead. Before all of this, before songs and commands and crowns. Her claws dug into the earth. I thought perhaps the song might join us one day. And now, he asked. Now I am a mistake he had to correct gently, she said bitterly. A foolish dragoness who dreamed too loudly. He did not wound me with cruelty. He wounded me with kindness. That is worse. Raymond's eyes darkened, though not with compassion alone. Kindness that leaves a wound, he murmured, is often just cowardice in softer scales. She flinched. Daniel is no coward, she protested automatically. He has faced more than any of us. On the battlefield, perhaps, Raymond said. But in matters of the heart? He shrugged slightly. A king who cannot look fully at those he wounds, who does not see the weight of those he leaves behind. Such a king may rule, but he does not lead all of his subjects. The thought had always lived in some unspoken corner of her mind. Hearing it aloud made it solid. And Sharia, he asked gently, what place does she hold for you now? Wintella's wings pulled tighter against her sides. She is everything I am not, she admitted, the words scraping her throat. Calm where I am fierce, steady where I flare. The song seems to favor her. The younglings adore her. Daniel trusts her with what he never trusted me. Her tail lashed once. When she enters a gathering, the air changes. When I enter, I am decoration or disruption. Raymond watched her carefully, noting each fracture line. You feel unseen, he said. I feel replaced, she answered. There it was, the heart of it. He moved one step closer, still respecting her space, but letting his voice lower. Listen to me, Wintella, he said. I have walked long in shadow. I have seen kingdoms rise and fall because those with true strength were pushed to the edges while gentler voices were given the center. His gaze held hers. You are not lesser than Sharia. You are simply different. Her breath trembled. Different is never chosen, she whispered. Not yet, he said. But seasons change. Kings can falter. Realms can learn that they need more than one kind of strength. His eyes softened with deliberate warmth. And when they finally look for a dragon whose fire does not bow, whose spine does not break, whose loyalty, once given, cannot be shaken, he paused, they will find you. The words settled into the deepest cracks of her heart like molten gold, filling wounds she had never let heal. And you, she asked, voice barely above a whisper, what do you see yourself as in such a season? He smiled, slow and measured. I see myself as one who stands behind the dragon the realm should have seen long ago, he said. Not above, not over, with. Her pulse stuttered. Raymond, she breathed. Are you asking? He finished for her, his tone gentle. Not yet. A king's guard cannot speak of such things lightly. But I will say this, if ever the song should join our paths, if ever a time comes when the realms look to you for more than ornament or entertainment, he dipped his head. Know that I would not hesitate to stand at your side. She looked at him, heart beating unsteadily, resentment and longing twisting together into something perilous. Daniel chose Sharia, she said, the words tasting like ash. He chose her, and Yeshariel crowned him. What place is left for dragons like us? Raymond's eyes cooled just a fraction. There are many ways for a throne to shift, he said softly. Not all of them require death. Some require only removal, distance, a change in how the realms perceive those they once trusted. She frowned slightly. You speak in riddles. I speak in caution, he replied, because I know this. The song cannot be forced, but hearts can be turned, loyalties can be redirected, and sometimes, he added, voice low, those whom the realms cling to have to be set aside before others can take their rightful place. She should have been alarmed. Instead, she felt a dangerous, heady sense of hope. Set aside how, she asked. Banished? If they break the laws, he said, or if something happens that makes it appear they have. He watched her carefully. I do not speak of killing Daniel or Sharia. Yeshariel himself would forbid it, but exile, sickness, a fall from favor, he shrugged. Realms have survived such things before. She thought of the laws, of the commands, of the ancient words still ringing in the garden's memory. Banished, not dead, not gone forever, just removed. Would you truly wish that? He asked quietly. To see them taken from the center that you might finally step into the place you were made for? Her heart hammered. She imagined Daniel without Sharia at his side. She imagined a throne that had room for someone fierce, someone overlooked, someone like her. She imagined herself there. Her voice faltered. If it meant the realms were stronger, if it meant the king had one beside him who would not crumble, she swallowed. Then yes, she whispered, I would wish it. Raymond inclined his head as if she had simply confirmed something he had long suspected. Then we are not so different, you and I, he murmured. We both see what the realms could be, and we both know they will not change on their own. She did not see the cold gleam that flashed through his eyes when he turned away. Far from the quiet shade of the trees, deep beneath the mountains where light rarely walked, Drummond shed his borrowed skin. The dragon shape unraveled in a series of painful cracking shudders, scales dissolving into coarse stone-colored flesh. Wings folded in on themselves and vanished. Elegant horns twisted back into jagged protrusions. The refined lines of Raymond's face contorted into the broad, brutal features of the ogre-like form beneath. He sank to one knee in the gloom, claws digging into the cold stone. The potion's hold had lasted longer this time. The mimicry of Asherai fire had convinced even the ancient sigils. The youngling's rescue had cemented his place in the valley's memory. But it was not enough. He did not want a place. He wanted a throne. And for that, Daniel and Sharia could not remain where they were. Not yet, he growled to himself. Not by my hand, not while his laws bind even me. He hated that phrase, even me, as though he were some lesser creature bound by restraints he had not agreed to. But he knew the truth. Whatever power he wielded, whatever shadows bent to his will, he had not made himself. And there was one he still could not touch. Letting my cat out, sorry. Go on. He rose slowly, every movement a coil of resentment and resolve. Then he stepped deeper into the abyss. The cavern narrowed into a passage where the air grew thicker, heavier, as though filled with invisible weight. Stone underfoot shifted from rough to unnaturally smooth, worn down not by time or water, but by the press of something far greater. A faint light burned ahead, not bright, not warm, but pure. A line of radiance drawn across the floor like the edge of a blade. Drummon's lips pulled back from his teeth. He hated that light. It burned him. It bound him. It reminded him of what he had once refused. And yet he could not turn away from it. He approached until the glow touched his feet. Pain lanced up his legs, searing into bone. He hissed, but did not retreat. Beyond the line of light, the air seemed to shift, not with movement, but with presence. The vastness of it pressed against him, filling the passage, the stone, the very space between his thoughts. When Yeshariel spoke, the sound was not loud, but it filled everything. Drummond, his name, spoken by that voice, was both judgment and memory. He dropped to both knees, more from force than from reverence. The light flared along the line before him, scorching his skin where it touched. You have much gall to come near my radiance, Yeshariel said. His tone was neither surprised nor impressed. It was simply true. Drummond sneered, though the expression faltered under the pain. You think I enjoy this, he rasped, standing where your presence weighs like chains? You came, Yeshariel answered. You cross no line I do not permit. Speak, then, and be swift. My patience with you is not endless. The title caught in his throat like a bone. He forced it out with a snarl. Your Lord, he spat, each word laced with resentment. I wish to put your precious dragons to the test. The light brightened. Which dragons, Yeshariel asked, though Drummond knew he already knew. Daniel, Drummond said, the one you crowned, the one they foolishly call king. His claws scraped harsh groves into the stone. And Sharia, the one you favor, the one you let carry your song as though her heart could never fracture. He drew a harsh breath. I could prove it, he hissed. If you allow me to test her, to press her, to strip away their comforts, I will show you. She will come to hate you. He will doubt you. Their loyalty will crumble. For a moment, the only sound was Drummond's ragged breathing. Then Yeshariel spoke, and the words shook the stone. Daniel and Sharia are mine, he said. I know their hearts more than you know your own. You do not instruct me in ways that may or may not endure. Drummond flinched as a crack split the stone beneath him, a thin line radiating outward from the glowing border. But you wish to sift them, Yeshariel continued, to press, to deceive, to whisper. That is your delight, is it not? Drummond's Lips twisted. I wish to prove that they trust you only while you favor them, he said, and that when you allow them to suffer, they will curse your name. Then hear this, Yeshariel said, his voice deepening. You may test them. You may whisper. You may twist what weak hearts yield to you. You may strike their circumstances. You may touch their bodies with sickness of shadow. The light flared, forcing Drummond's gaze downward. But you will not take their lives. Drummond's head snapped up, fury blazing in his eyes. I want his death, he snarled. The king stands in my way. Let me break his neck and cast him from the heights. Let me tear the song from her throat. Let me... Enough! The word was not a shout. It did not need to be. The entire passage convulsed. Stones shuddered. Dust fell in thin streams from the ceiling. The line of light roared like a river of fire, and Drummond cried out as its radiance surged up his arms, searing deeper than flesh. Daniel's breath is in my hand, Yeshariel said, not yours. You may strike him, but you will not end him. You may appear to bring him to the brink, but I alone will decide his final hour. As for Sharia, the glow intensified, and Drummond felt something like a shield settle between the light and his rage. You will not kill her, Yeshariel said. You will not command another to end her life. You will not raise claw or flame directly against her. If she suffers, it will be by the choices of those who listen to your lies, not by your hand upon her throat. Drummond's breath came in harsh, furious bursts. You bind me, he hissed. You always bind me. I restrain harm, Yeshariel said calmly. Even yours. Understand this, Drummond. You cannot move one stone beyond where I allow it to fall. You cannot touch one breath beyond where I draw the line. If you overreach, if you defy these bounds, you will not wait for final judgment. I will cast you into the outer darkness now, where flames burn without light, and no song will ever touch you again. The threat was not bluster. Drummond felt it in the shudder of the abyss, in the way the shadows themselves recoiled. He swallowed his rage, forcing it down into a colder place. Then I will not touch them directly, he said slowly. But others have hearts that can be turned. Dragons who already resent, already envy, already feel overlooked. A cruel smile crept across his mouth. If they choose to act, that will simply be the fruit of what was already in them. Their choices will be their own, Yeshariel answered, and they will answer for them, as will you for every whisper, every twist, every half-truth. I will hold you accountable for every spirit you seek to devour. Drummond bowed his head, more to hide his expression than from submission. Then we are agreed, he said. No death by my hand, only testing. And remember this, Yeshariel said. What you intend for destruction, I will turn for refining. You will find in the end that all your schemes only deepen the glory of those you sought to break. Drummond's jaw clenched until it creaked. He pushed himself backward away from the burning line. The pain lessened with each step, though the memory of it clung to his skin like scorched ash. You will be sorry you allowed this, he growled. I am so sovereign over what I allow, Yeshariel answered, and I am not afraid of your malice. The light dimmed to its earlier steady glow. The presence that had filled the passage remained unmoved, unshaken, utterly unthreatened. Drummond turned and stalked back into the depths, every step fueled by a hatred that now had a path. Far above, the everlight tree shivered. A tiny crack opened in the soil near its roots, a narrow fissure, not wider than a claw. It closed again almost at once. In the valley below, Daniel slept, unaware of the wager being made over his life. Sharia stood at the mouth of her lair, watching the stars, a quiet unease stirring beneath her ribs. And when Tella, curling in the shadows of her den, dreamed of a throne where she finally stood at the center, unaware that her wounded longing had just become part of a plan she did not understand. In the abyss, Drummond smiled in the dark. He could not kill them, but he could bend the hearts around them. And the first heart he would fully claim had already begun to turn. All right, and then there is there's the ending video, or not the video, the ending image of the end of chapter 12. All right, guys. So book one is it's in a playlist here on YouTube. If you have not checked out the playlist and you want to start at the beginning to read this book with me, I welcome all of you to go find the playlist and just start from the first video, because I read chapter one there. And my goal is just to read through these books a couple chapters a week as I'm able. And I don't know how many books are going to be in this series. I am maybe not quite halfway through with book 5, which is called The Song of Reckoning. But we'll just have to wait and see how things are going along. So just recap really quickly. Starting tonight at midnight Eastern Standard Time is when the free book promo is on over on Amazon. I have all of the links and the information in the description below. Please take advantage of that. That's my way of offering freely to the body of Christ. So, all right, I'm going to end it there, and hopefully I will see you guys next week. All right, you guys take care. God